And I was immediately at the front and confident and ready, and I loved it. It was great.
What changed?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do. You're the chemist. Come on, Mel.
Magic.
You spreadsheeted this for days. I know you did. Like at that point, like you could create carbon fiber in your basement. You're such a chemist. Welcome to BrainStoke. I'm Tom Telford here with Preston Niederhauser. We are in BrainStoke Studios, otherwise known as my house. And today we have ultra cyclist Mel, aka Melisa Rollins, with us. So stoked to have you. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, you are officially becoming cycling royalty lately.
Queen.
Your career arc is really unique, and I think we'll get into that at some point. But my question to kind of kick us off is, what was your welcoming moment in the pro peloton when you're like, holy cow, I am here?
Yeah. Let's think. Maybe not too long ago, probably. Actually, last year I joined, I've been on this road team, but I joined my road team for my first set of road races after being on the team for 2 years at that point. I was originally signed as an off-road athlete, and I decided to see if I could carve my own way and join the road a bit and see how that went. And yeah, I raced Redlands as my first, which is a 5-day stage race in California. It's been going on for something like 30 years. It's usually the first stop in the pro peloton at least for the domestic calendar. And yeah, so my first pro race was one of the biggest on the calendar, and I arrived not really knowing how to road race, but yeah, on stage 1 of Redlands, I finished top 10, and in the end of Redlands, I actually was fighting for the win in GC, and there was a moment on stage 2 when I broke away from the rest of the field, and I was riding for top 5 position on the top of Oak Glen, which is sort of, it's like a hilltop finish on stage 2 of Redlands. It's iconic. It's, Sepp Kuss has won there. Many of the iconic American road racers have won on top of that mountain. And I was there, and I felt like I had maybe made my mark and made it. Yeah.
Did you in the moment, like, in a situation like that, did you realize what was happening? Like, you're like, or were you like questioning, am I really here? Is this a dream? Like, is this real? Or were you too naive at the moment? You were just like racing by feel, as something we might talk about later.
I mean, I went into that race as a domestique, and all of a sudden I was riding for the top position on my team. And I think in my head, I knew that I was ready for the moment, but I also had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Surprise.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
You're leading.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we got a lot to talk about to get to that point, but it's cool to give listeners just some context that this is a woman who is riding at the top level of the sport domestically. We're going to talk about international experience, but yeah, let's go back to the beginning. Where are you from, Mel? Give us some background of who you are, how you started, how you were raised.
Yeah. So I'm from Orem, Utah. I lived between Orem and Alpine for most of my high school years. And yeah, I was a soccer player most of my formative years. And I mixed in a little bit of swimming as well. So I tried to do that competitively in high school. But I didn't continue any of that into college. When I went to college, I was fully immersed in academics. I find that I'm a very all-in person. When I like something, I do it all in, and it gets all of my attention. And so when I went to college, I was super into academics. I knew that I wanted to be a chemist since I was maybe 14.
Wow.
And yeah, I am. So
She's the smartest in the room.
Scared to
And
death
the
right
best
now.
cyclist.
Scared to death right now.
No, dude.
Oh, why chemistry? What was it about that?
I think it's this hard thing that a lot of people are scared of, and someone told me I was good at it. So I manifested that, and I became good at it.
A junior high teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. They voted me like the best in the class, which I really wasn't. I don't think I even was the highest scoring on tests or anything, but for some reason somebody believed in me, and so I believed in myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Someone told me I was the biggest flirt, and I agree. I became the best flirt around. So that was in junior high.
Yeah, of course.
So I get it now. I totally get it. Oh,
Going places.
junior high teachers, bless them. That's cool.
Formative years.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, they have so much input on
Totally.
on what you're going to do with your life. Even if they don't realize it.
Yeah.
Or if I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they know where you're at today?
Probably no idea.
Oh, you got to reach out. Be like, yeah, impacted that girl.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So Utah County,
Yep.
Tom yesterday took me on a death march, and part of it went through Utah County. I bonked probably right next to your home where you grew up. But you grew up in a family that they rode bikes. Your parents rode bikes, right?
Yeah.
And when did you decide you were interested in riding bikes? Like, did that happen? Was Nika, you were probably of the age of Nika at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nika was starting to come about my, I think, junior year of high school, maybe senior year. And yeah, my parents obviously loved cycling. They have been cycling all of my life. They've been super into long endurance mountain bike races. They lived, at the foot of Corner Canyon, a very popular mountain bike trail system in Draper. And yeah, one of the high school Nika mountain bike races that was going on was in Corner Canyon, and my parents encouraged me to do it when I was a senior in high school. I have no idea what category I raced in, and it really doesn't matter because I did not finish. And yeah, so that was my experience with Nika.
So one race?
Yeah,
one race.
very short-lived.
Okay.
Yeah, the day of my senior prom, and I crashed out.
Okay. You had battle wounds in your prom dress.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yes.
the forearms. Yeah,
I love it.
was starting them early. The forearm scars.
One and done. And hated the race,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, siblings?
Yes, I have 2 older siblings.
Okay.
And 4 step siblings.
Okay.
So I come from a blended family of a mother and a stepdad who both love cycling a lot. My biological dad also loves cycling, so my whole family loves cycling.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
So it's in the DNA part of it. Do your siblings also ride?
Yeah, so one of my my closest in age brother has done a bit of endurance mountain bike racing as well. My oldest brother really likes the enduro style racing, but yeah, everybody rides. We love mountain biking.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's sweet. So you went to college, didn't touch a bike through much of college.
No.
Maybe towards the end, junior, maybe senior year of college, you decide to get on a bike.
Yeah.
Because
so
you're looking for something else.
Yeah, so I threw my bike down literally in high school and never touched it again because rocks are scary. And yeah, middle of college, after I'd been immersed in college life for, 2.5, 3 years, I felt like I was missing something. My whole my whole high school routine was wake up, swim practice, school, swim practice, sometimes soccer after swim practice. So my whole life was athletics. But when I went to college, it was wake up, school, after school
Chem lab.
tutoring,
Yeah.
chem lab.
Yeah.
Like I was super immersed in it. I volunteered in chemistry labs. I loved organic chemistry, which is the scary one for a lot of people. I was in my professor's offices. It was everything. I loved it. It was everything to me.
Yeah.
So but I mean, it wears off after a while, right? You're super immersed and it's like, you got a bad grade. Like, how are you going to deal with that? So
if something was missing, how did you come to the conclusion that maybe riding a bike might fill the void?
I don't know. I mean, I was just going back to athletics and I saw this thing that my parents were doing for so many years and I wanted to try it out. Yeah. My parents have been doing a race in Leadville, Colorado, a 100-mile mountain bike race for, at that point, it was like two decades. At this point, it's 3 decades.
Yeah. So they've each done it roughly 25 times or so.
Yeah.
Which is
my
remarkable.
mom, yeah, both of them, which is amazing.
Yeah.
The dedication to go back to something that many times is crazy to me. But yeah, around the same time that I was kind of looking for something new, I knew that my stepdad had actually won a mountain bike in a raffle.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had this like extra mountain bike sitting in the garage that he was not sure what he was going to do with, if he was going to donate it or sell it or something. And so I came to him with an idea that maybe I would try this mountain bike race that they had been doing for so many years. I mean, my whole life was them training for it.
You played on him. You're like, free bike. Yay. I know this. I know this look right now. Daddy, I can't say, I've never said no to my daughter once in her life. So I get this, Mel. You preyed on him.
I want to hear the sales pitch.
Well played.
Like, what did you do?
Dad,
Like,
I need something in my life.
Crying.
Oh, I love this.
There were tears involved?
I'm so sad.
No, there were probably tears of joy from
School
your parents.
is
They're like,
hard.
she wants to finally touch the bike again.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had touched the bike perhaps like a few times in between high school and this point, and I just didn't like it. I mean, I went and rode some green trails green is like the easiest level trails I was riding. There was like at least 2 rocks, and I hit both of them head on and fell. Hated it. It wasn't my jam.
But you mentioned a little bit ago, I'm curious about this to tie it back together, but you played other sports and you're a competitor. There's something in you about being competitive. So what was it, the inner competitor, that did it resurface when you were in college? Like, I need, other than just, I mean, competing in school, one thing, grades, right? But did you miss competing? And were you looking for some of that when you went back to the bike?
You know, initially, I don't think so. I think I wanted something athletic to do because so much of my life had been athletics. But I should have known that once I go down that rabbit hole with anything, it becomes my life's obsession.
Yeah.
It always does.
So was this in 2016?
Yeah.
So you decide in 2016, well, I'm going to pick up the bike again, but I'm also going to sign up for the hardest one-day race in mountain bike lore, right? You decide to sign up for Leadville.
Yeah. Yep. So Leadville is a 100-mile mountain bike race that sits almost entirely above 9,500 feet. It starts at 10,200 feet. It tops out at 12,600 feet, and it has over 12,000 feet of climbing in it.
And did you sign up for that just because your parents had been always doing it? Or you're like, I want something hard to do? Or did you know how hard it really was?
Oh, I had no idea how hard it was.
Okay.
None. I mean, my parents would just go out and have fun on the weekends, then do their little ride thing. And I mean, that was my perception of it, right? Like, of course,
Can't be that hard. My parents are lame. So just whatever they could do.
I mean, I think I knew the concept of it was hard, but I feel like I'm a hard person.
Yeah.
For more context for our listeners, I mean, of all the races on the planet, for just that anybody could get into, not pros, not like the Tour de France, you know. Leadville 100 is, yeah, I mean, this is the race you want to get into. It's famous. And by the way, if your parents have done it that many times, I bet they have a bedroom full of buckles, which means most people think they're like rodeo king and queen, right? No, they're not even riding horses. They're just winning buckles at this race. So
Yeah.
talk more about that.
Yeah, so when you finish the Leadville 100, the marquee event, you receive I think when it started, it was like a hand carved little belt buckle.
Yes.
So yeah, every single year for the last, I mean, at that point it was 2 decades. Now it's like
Yeah.
I said, 3 decades that they've been going back. They each have, between 10 and 20 of these belt buckles. I didn't know what it meant. It just looked cool. Yeah.
You're like, I don't wear Wranglers. Who cares about a buckle? No, I mean, you also have to achieve a finish time, right, to win or earn the buckle. And so it's a big deal. I mean, if you're wearing a buckle, I mean, in certain circles, it's like, what's with the buckle? In other circles, it's like, no, this is legit. This is a hard person who trained and is really good at mountain biking. So kudos to your parents.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
They're incredible. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So go back to that. Preston asked the question. So what was it? Just, hey, that's the one I've heard about for years and years, so I might as well.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to do something hard. I can do hard things.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So
I didn't know what I was getting into though.
So let's talk about hard then. How hard was it? Like, what were some of the thoughts you had that first time riding Leadville?
Yeah, I guess a little bit of context is that I literally didn't ride a bike at that, like January 1 of that year when I was deciding that I wanted to do this thing that I didn't know what it was, but I had an idea of what it was. I had never trained on a bike. I had never done anything longer than a few hours of exercise. I like never ridden my bike up a canyon, which is sort of like a good starting place if you want to.
You had never ridden up AF, have you?
I have now.
Yeah, but to that point, it was like
a 10-miler didn't exist on your resume.
I think in high school, I mean, I lived in Orem, Utah. There's Provo Canyon, which is pretty close by, and I had ridden up to Bradaville Falls, which was a 7-mile out, 7-mile back ride.
Yeah,
it was so hard. Yeah, I had done that.
Mm-hmm.
So 14 miles of bike path.
Yeah,
she's on her way to stardom, folks. It's so endearing though to hear you say this. It really is, because it's like, hey, I'm going to set out and do this, and then, I mean, into fast forward, which we'll get into. But so January 1, you're like, hey, I'm in this race.
Yeah.
And then how did the lead up go? Meaning, I mean, the race happens. It just happened,
Yeah. So it happens in August. So I had 8 months to prepare. And, it's kind of a beautiful story of, like a daughter reconnecting with her mom who, I mean, we all of a sudden had this thing in common that we got to do together every weekend. They were my training partners. So obviously they'd been doing it for so many years. They knew how to prepare for it. So they taught me everything how to do. They taught me how to go on a long ride and fuel for it. They taught me how to, not wear your underwear inside of the chamois. Like,
I love this.
I go commando in this thing?
I'm trying to picture your parents like laying down at night and feeling like our daughter's returned. You know what I mean? Like the prodigal daughter, the chemist is finally returned. Were they stoked? Be honest.
Of
like they couldn't show it, but inside they were just like, this is. Yeah.
They're also competitive though. So my mom's like, I'm still better than her. For many years she was. But on my side, I'm like, gotta get better than my mom.
Dude, I love it.
Like I beat my mom up this climb.
I
It took
love
me
that.
3 years. But
how many rides that year with your mom?
oh gosh, at least like as soon as the snow melted every weekend until August. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Were you living at home at that time?
I can't remember if I mean, I lived on campus. And
Yeah. Okay.
I went to the U. So.
Yeah. You were close by.
Yeah.
Close enough by.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do Lodija, or not Lodija, you do Leadville, excuse me.
Yeah.
I got Lodija on the brain for other reasons. So, and did you finish 10, you went sub 11 your first time?
Yeah. So I finished 10-12.
Okay.
Which
is super respectable.
I attribute almost fully to the fact that my parents taught me how to eat on the bike. I mean, being able to fuel is everything, especially up there. Yeah.
What did 12,000 feet feel like? Was that like so
Like,
painful
in
to
general?
breathe? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I
I'm
mean-
just on the bike. I mean, racing at that elevation just seems so difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't riding. I was just pushing my bike. I mean, it's really steep at the part that
Totally.
when you're climbing up to that point. And I was hiking extremely slow. That's all I remember. Just
Okay.
like pushing my bike up this steep
hike a
hill,
bike.
and like people are like hiking around me because I'm so slow on the hike. But yeah, it's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you want to get off that mountain as fast as you can. Yeah.
In that moment, that day, were you regretting? Were you like, why not just chemistry, like lab coat, geek out
These
on
sweet
the
goggles.
beakers, just like, you know what I mean?
No, because I was there to do it.
Okay.
I don't
Now
know.
we're
I
getting
wasn't
there.
ready.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think anyone's ever ready for that. But I would think I was.
So did you stay in a good headspace the whole first time, that whole race? Did
No,
you still dealt
surely
with some,
not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember how hard it was, and
Yeah.
I cried at the finish line, which I think a lot of people do because it's just so freaking hard. It takes everything from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't feel well after that race for weeks.
Yeah.
I remember getting back on the bike and I was not ready for a long time, which to me tells me I maybe wasn't quite ready for it, but I did it.
Did it feel good though? That
Yeah.
first finish?
Yeah, it
Because
did. It did.
Your story goes on, which I want you to describe it, but when you look back on that first finish line, did something click that day where it was like, something about this race in
Yeah.
particular?
I mean, I actually had made a friend out there that I didn't know going into it. And it was kind of like this camaraderie. We were going to finish together, me and my new friend, Dawn. And we crossed the finish line together. And it was like we had just done something incredible because we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just emptied ourselves for 10 plus hours doing something that, I mean, perhaps Don knew he could do it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had never done anything like that before.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What a finish. Well, take us from there. What
Yeah.
happens after that?
Yeah. I mean, I was set. I mean, I went back to college immediately after the race in August. So I started college back up after that. And I was already scheming for next year. I actually moved there for the summer.
You're kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you get a job at Floyd's?
No, I got a job at a brewery.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I poured beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I poured beer in Leadville, Colorado, and I babysat some kids that lived near the start line that I came to know really well. And yeah, I prepared for the race. I lived there with my older brother who wanted a shot at finishing for himself. He had already done it before, but he wanted to do it again.
Cool.
And yeah,
This level of commitment.
We loved it.
You're like, yes. I mean, this is so awesome. You're like, I just finished hiking my bike on this route and I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
You know what? In fact, I'm going to move there because I'm going to crush this thing.
yeah, I mean, the weird thing is like, I didn't care about other racing.
Yeah.
I didn't care about being a pro racer. I just wanted to do Leadville.
Yeah. So awesome. So
Yeah.
you've done it now 7 times.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're beating around the bush a little bit, but 7th time was the charm, right?
7th time was the charm. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you are the 2024 winner of Leadville.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
is remarkable. What was your finish time?
My finish time was 7 hours and 10 minutes.
And you won by, I think, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
No, at one point I had an 11-minute advantage, but I won by 4 minutes.
Okay.
It was crumbling.
It was crumbling.
Yeah.
The back half of your race was crumbling.
Yeah.
But the front half of your race was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we probably need to talk a little bit about this 7 years that you went from hiking your bike to finishing. And how many summers did you spend in Leadville?
I spent 2 summers in Leadville. That first one I had just mentioned, I actually didn't finish the race that year. I crashed on a pre-ride and got a melon-sized contusion on my quad and was unable to finish, which was devastating.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had committed so much to that. And I don't know if that was the impetus for what I did the following year, but I did go back and live there again the next year in 2018. But that time I decided that I would also do the Leadville 100 run.
Run?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is obsessive behavior. Yeah, chemist goes course, then goes running. This is like legit.
I wasn't a runner.
Of course you weren't a runner. Why would you?
Oh, say more about that.
I mean, if I could go 0 to 100 on the bike, why not 0 to 100 on the run? I don't know. With the bike thrown in there too. I did it the week before.
Incredible mindset.
Yeah, it was not easy. I also did finish the 100-mile run in over the allotted time. So I was the last unofficial finisher of the Leadville 100 trail run in 2018. Okay. Which I might have to go back for that at some point.
Oh boy.
But we're not obsessed about it yet.
Yeah.
It hurts my body too
You've
much.
compartmentalized
It's back there. It's back in the brain.
But there's a chip on the shoulder there.
Yeah. I only pull out those feelings when I'm feeling really, really dark. Then I can remember how much it actually hurts when you're at mile 99 of 100.
Oh man.
How did the conversation go when you told your parents that, hey, I'm going to move to Leadville?
They were super supportive. They loved it.
Yeah.
They're like, we want to come.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
No, they loved it.
They loved everything about it.
Yeah. I mean,
Cool.
it's a whole family thing.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
We love it up there.
That's awesome.
So at what point from, that year where you did not complete the Leadville 100 on the bike to take the next step after that? Because at some point in there, it's like, hey, I have something in me that can do this pretty well. So when did that surface in terms of just, doing it at another level, and not just that I wanted to be there and finish it, but doing it meaning as an identity and a job and a career?
Yeah. I mean, I obviously the following year after the DNF, I came back and did everything in Leadville, which was all of the running and riding races in Leadville over the summer. And when I was done, I mean, that culminated in the 100-mile trail run. And so when I was done with that, I decided that I was ready to not run ever again in my whole life, and went back to the bike. And that's when I picked up the bike for real. And I got a coach, and I decided, let's try this out. Let's be a little bit more serious about this. Obviously, I'm still, I think at that point I was done with college. I think that was the year that I graduated college. So I think I had just gotten a real job as a chemist, but I mean, my mind was on the bike at that point. I scraped by to finish chemistry because I was so invested in the bike at that point. Yeah.
What was it about the bike? I mean, I know it's connected to your family, but for you personally to love it, what was it about it? I mean, you're good at it. You're seeing better results. You're stronger. I mean, so the progression of it is enticing, but is there something else connected to the bike for you that you just fell in love with it?
Yeah. I mean, it's what I felt. I mean, I really enjoyed swimming as well. And I find there's kind of like a monotony to it that you can sort of let yourself go and be free and not think about anything else. I really enjoy that about the bike. I mean, there's a competitive side as well, obviously, that I love, and I'm super competitive, but I think you have to love training more than you love racing if you're going to be a professional cyclist. And
Yeah.
I love training.
Do you geek out on the process?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the numbers. I love improving. I like small improvements, anything to get a marginal gain. I love it. And yeah, I mean, there's so much of that in cycling.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's huge. So at what point do you go from that, I guess, time frame? You got a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, did you enjoy the coach? Was
Yeah,
that a
I
good
loved
thing?
it. Yeah, it was great. It was my first like structured anything to do with the bike, which I felt like I immediately saw improvements, which is always really positive and motivating. But I mean, obviously I was still very motivated to do well at Leadville. So that was still kind of my goal. I mean, I feel like a lot of my competitors, they didn't start by racing Leadville as their primary race. They started in other disciplines, and now Leadville is very popular in the professional cycling world. So they're all like having to do it now. Whereas it was always my goal ever since I started.
Yeah.
So I got a coach to help improve my Leadville time.
Yeah, you only raced Leadville essentially, right? I mean, that
basically.
was the whole focus,
Yeah.
always.
Yep.
Did you ever deviate from the plan your coach gave you?
Never.
I knew it.
No.
Yeah.
How could I?
Why would you, right? The plan is here. If I follow it, I will get X.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I would need like permission if I would need it to be set, like written out and be like, can I change it to this, but you have to change it before I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Not a maverick.
No. Well,
So were you coachable though? I mean, I'm
think
sure
so.
that your
Yeah.
coach was like, hey, this is someone who's buying in. They're all in, they're committed to it.
I think I'm too coachable. Like I'm like too much of a robot. I'll do it. I'll do everything.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
I don't know. I mean, now I coach people and I see what like normal people are like.
Normal people. Oh, I love it.
Like, oh, there's some variance.
Everybody else
in
is
these
asking for
intervals.
variance every day. Like, hey, Mel, this doesn't seem fun at all.
I want to do those 30 by 30s forever. Yeah.
So you got the coach, start seeing progression, big progression.
Yep. Yeah.
And was that next year a difference maker at Leadville?
It would have been, but it was COVID and there was no racing. So I spent a whole year kind of preparing for when it would make a difference. And it was everything I wanted. Like all I could dream about was the day that somebody was like, you're so good, I'm going to give you a bike. Like that was everything I wanted.
That's so cool. Was COVID a blessing to a degree? I mean, the racing scene changed, but for you and your progression, was it helpful? Meaning you had a pass to be, everybody that year who wanted to, I did, and I'm not, I could just ride, right? It became this thing that was like, the whole world's taking a weekend for a year.
Yeah.
So let's just ride. So,
Weirdly, it like increased my obsession because then all I wanted to do was race, but there was no racing. So my, competitive outlet was to race people on Strava everywhere, anywhere, every time I went out.
you were QOMing all the time.
I loved it. It was like my only outlet.
Yeah.
Now I had, that has its place. I did that. I went, I did. And now I don't anymore.
On purpose.
Yes.
An unhealthy relationship to it?
A little bit.
Yeah. That smile says a lot of it. This obsession is coming out. We'll have to double click on that in a second, but take us to the point where you actually got to toe the line after COVID and how that felt.
Yeah. I did a few races that weren't Leadville. I was dipping my toes other places at that point because I had invested in a coach, in myself, and wanted to race. Yeah. So I raced at every opportunity that I could. And I saw that I was actually competitive. although I didn't know how to race, really. I knew how to time trial for 10
You were
hours.
strong.
Yeah, I knew
You
I was
could go
strong.
fast.
I knew I was strong. I didn't really understand like working in a pack, which is useful. I didn't really understand how to, I knew how to pace because you kind of, some people like inherently can pace. I think I can inherently pace extremely well. And yeah, so I'd done a few races, noticed that I was doing pretty well in them, and it was really exciting. Yeah.
That's cool. So you toed the line after those couple races. How does that next Leadville go?
Yeah, I had my best ride ever up to that point at Leadville, and I was 6th, and I could see 5th in the finish. She was less than a minute ahead of me, and it was Katarina Nash, who is a very, very successful cyclist who I've always looked up to, and I was right there. It's crazy. Yeah. So wow. I finished that ride, and I actually was doing it in conjunction with a competition that was going on called the Lead Boat Challenge, where you finish the Leadville 100 mountain bike race in Leadville, Colorado, and then you drive immediately to Steamboat, Colorado. And the next day you do the 144-mile gravel race. And it was a timed competition for whatever reason that had a little bit of notoriety, and I ended up finishing 2nd there.
Your combined time?
Yeah, was 2nd to Sarah Sturm, who is a very, very successful cyclist.
Yeah.
So I actually got noticed there by a team.
Your phone rang the next day, right?
My DMs rang on Instagram, because that's how things work now.
Your phone rang.
I love it. I should open up Instagram. Easy rotary
dial. I love it.
That's how things work.
It's classic.
There's a lot of truth to what you just said, by the way. So they're giggling inside because they know.
No, there's something there though. We need to just. So, do you have a gift for recovery? I mean, that back-to-back day is unreal to me.
Oh, it was awful.
It's one thing, I guess, to go do it and complete it, but with your finisher, right? The placements and the times that you had, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was super hard. I think everyone was kind of in the same boat, obviously. And yeah, the position was actually solidified the position in the competition was solidified at Leadville, and we all ended up, we didn't start or plan to do this, but we ended up finishing, everyone doing the competition the second day actually finished together that day. So yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So DMs rang.
DMs were
and
shouting.
Who is the team?
Nicola Cranmer from Team 2024 at the time. Well, it still is Team 2024. It changes title sponsors every year. Yeah, I reached out. They're a Olympic development team, which is interesting for road and track cycling. They're mostly a road team, but they are the longest running women's road cycling team in the world. So wow, it has a very long, impactful history, and my mind was blown. They reached out. They had seen me at Steamboat Gravel. They actually saw me as I was approaching the podium for the event. I remember I exchanged words with the manager, and I told her that they pronounced my name wrong, and I laughed at it with her, and I said, it's because I'm invisible, and because that's how I felt at that time. And yeah, the rest is history. Signed with them, and with the idea that I actually would race off-road, even though this is an Olympic road and track cycling development squad, I would race off-road the next year for them.
So that was something they were looking to expand or get into.
Yep. So with COVID, gravel cycling and mountain bike racing had expanded, and they wanted to dip their toes in. So they hired me with the idea that I would race. There was a series that was going to be coming out called the Lifetime Grand Prix in 2022, and they wanted me to be a part of it on their team. So I raced that. Yeah.
Were you the first
wow.
On their team to be not a privateer, but to be solely focused on off-road?
I think they had a few people in the past, but I was the first or I was the only person at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when an offer comes like that, you know, and you can share whatever you want to share or don't share, but what does that mean? I mean, you had a specific role that they wanted you to play, but what do they offer you? Is it compensation? Is it, you know, and again, whatever you want to say about that, but just for most people to know, like, how does that work and what is said and what's agreed upon?
Yeah, it's compensation, which would be the first time I had ever made money doing this. It was full support at every single race. It would be free bikes from the team. It would be a mechanic support at team races. It would be coaching for the time that I was on the team. So it's kind of a full gig.
Yeah.
What was the expectation on the number of races? Like, did this now ramp up your race calendar big time, or was it going to fit right in with what you had normally been doing?
Yeah, I mean, I had really only been doing Leadville and a few preparatory races for it. So this was going to be
a game changer for sure.
Yeah. Especially being a part of this new series, the Lifetime Grand Prix. It was going to be 6 off-road races, which included the Leadville 100 actually. So it was kind of my first real experience racing with real pros at every single race. It was my first time being in a stacked field that had, I mean, everybody at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In your mind that day when that occurred, you know, you hang up the phone, there's an offer on the table. I don't know. Did you say immediately? Or are you like, hey, can I get back to you? Like, what do you say?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I knew I wanted it.
Yeah.
It felt right. I mean, the conversation I had with her was really great. And I felt like she believed in me immediately. She knew, I mean, she could tell from just a conversation that I loved Leadville and that like I had a fire in me for something really big.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious, just side note, but was that meaningful that the call came from a woman on a woman's team?
Of course. I mean, that is so cool. I think she in particular has been doing so much for women's sport since, I mean, for decades. And honestly, if you look at who is a successful cyclist on the road in Europe, most of them have come through this team. So she has an eye for talent as well, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that part of the story. I think it's cool, you know, that it came from a woman, that it's, you know, run that way, led that way. Just, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Do you hang up the phone and say, you know, I know you're stoked, obviously, but is it immediate pressure, or is it like, yes, this is cool, I now can like dig in and have the support to do the heavy training to even get quicker, better, faster, stronger? I
mean, I like pressure. I signed with the team and I won the next race I did. Yeah, it was cool.
How does that go?
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
My first question to the manager would be like, is there a box of ketones on its way? Like, I'm going to need some ketones. Who's our ketone sponsor? I'm just kidding. That's just for, you know, middle-aged dads who are still trying to live the dream now. So what was the next race?
It was Shawamigan, which happens to now be a part of the Lifetime Grand Prix as well. Yeah.
History past.
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool. So take us from there. You sign, you're now pro, you're living that life. Any surprises as you got started as a paid pro?
Yeah. I hated it.
Did you?
Yeah. I got my head bashed in almost every race. I mean, these girls are amazing. And I was suddenly thrown in with the big dogs.
So you hated losing?
I think so.
Is that what it was that you hated?
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
No, it's not losing. It's not being a part of the race. Okay. When I arrive at the race, I want to at least be racing with my competitors.
Okay, so there was now a new learning curve.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like dropped immediately.
Yeah.
Which I think was a trend the entire year.
So are we talking gravel races or are we talking road races?
I hadn't raced any road at that point.
So this is still some gravel or off-road?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So how come that changed? How come now you were being dropped where
Yeah.
What was going on?
I don't know.
You're not
I
sure?
mean, I think I always was. It was highlighted a bit more now.
Okay. So that pressure it was a little bit of a pressure cooker, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the top end developed for the starts. And I mean, why would I?
Yeah.
I've only ever been doing one kind of race.
The endurance stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So strength now is, I don't know, it's less of a factor than tactics, upper end.
Yeah. I needed that stuff. So, and I spent the whole year wondering where it was
Yeah.
or how to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I raced Leadville again that year. I was 10th and I was slower than the year before, which was kind of devastating for me, but it was what it was. And the end of the year came around and I decided that I would take up road racing and stop this gravel stuff for a bit. Yeah. So
Was that because you needed a break from it, or you're like, I think this will help me become better?
yeah, my manager and I decided that we thought it would help me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I was just fully committed to seeing where it went.
And turn the page, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into the Redlands race.
Yeah.
Essentially,
basically the first race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're having this great experience.
Amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, I trusted in the process. I prepared for it as well as I could. And I arrived on the start line of my first pro road race with, I mean, it was like a historic number of women at it as well, like 130 riders.
That's a
or
huge
something.
field. Wow.
It was massive. And I was immediately at the front and confident and ready. And I loved it. It was great.
What changed?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do. You're the chemist. Come on, Mel.
Magic.
You spreadsheeted this for days. I know you did. Like at that point, like you could create carbon fiber in your basement. You're such a chemist.
Yeah, I believed in the process. I did everything perfectly. I mean, in training, I prepared mentally by I didn't know what road racing was. I had to watch it on TV. So to prepare. And I just arrived. I learned a lot. Wasn't great tactically, but there's only one way to figure that out.
Yeah.
Totally. You know what's interesting? Our listeners can't see this, but K-Day, who, has raced at a very high levels in the room today. One of the things that's attracted me to cycling and the people in cycling for years and years, a lot of people perceive that cyclists are they love pain and they're just the cycling version of like meatheads in the weight room. But the opposite has actually been my experience. The more I meet and hang out with cyclists, the more I'm like, these are some of the most brilliant minds that I've met. And they really care about the attention to detail. They care about the process and how it all works. So even hearing you kind of describe that year, I'm sure you're like, I don't know. But in reality, that's sandbagger speak for, I don't know how to take you through the process, but something tells me you uncovered every rock that year.
Yeah. I entered my off season, which usually people take early December or November. And then I started training for the season. And I decided I wanted to do everything perfectly and trust in my coach and the team that I was on and really take everything in. Yeah. Which ended up leading me to an opportunity to race in Europe with USA Cycling. So I was, again, go from absolutely no experience to racing, not a world tour level race, which is like the top race, but I was in a Point Pro race, which is, they have divisions and it's just below a world tour race. And I was working for another USA Cycling teammate and finished in the lead group at my first high level European race. Yeah.
What did they see in you similar to your team manager, from before, about you in particular, where they were like, hey, we're going to keep piling on more and more, and this girl's just going to do it? You know,
I haven't.
I mean, did it feel like an opportunity? I mean, or was it like exploitive? You know what I mean? Where they're like, well, send her.
We'll just see
Keep
how
it
she
going.
goes.
Yeah, let's just throw her to the wolves.
I sort of think that's how it goes. You gotta, I mean, you see talent in domestic fields and, you know, might as well throw them in with the big dogs, the sharks.
Yeah.
They're really sharks over there.
Is that the idea though, that you get thrown in and you just, the process or maybe the whole industry is just, let's just see if they step up and
Yeah.
deal, or if it's going to just be too much?
Yeah, I think the first European trip for most road cyclists makes or breaks their, like, if they're going to have a European career or not.
Yeah.
They'll know.
Did you question what you were doing over there ever at one point? Could it have broken you?
The first time I went, no. I
No.
loved it.
Okay.
I was like trying to figure out how I was going to live there.
Yeah.
It's
It's kind of like Leadville. You're like, okay, now I'm moving to Belgium.
no, not Belgium. No, Belgium's the worst.
Girona.
But yeah, but I didn't know that I hated Belgium at the time. That comes later. Yeah, I did go back for a second trip for a tour of Belgium,
Okay.
and I crashed 5 times in 7 days. And yeah, tore an intercostal, possibly broken rib, and this is on stage 1 of 5 of Tour of Belgium, and I, of course, completed it anyway. And I came back from Europe that time, and I was not sure if I
Pretty
wanted to
discouraged.
ever race again.
Yeah.
Because of the crashing?
Yeah, it was traumatic mentally. I mean, and like lining up again day after day with it's carnage. These girls are willing to risk their lives for 30th place, and I'm just trying not to crash.
Yeah. It's amazing competition, you know, and I've heard it described that way, that it's just an entirely different level.
Totally.
And, you know, to our listeners who, you know, may be listening into this, when we say literally their lives on the line, I mean, to race in Europe, you know, it's not, the crashes and even death are real. It happens.
Yes, it is true. They're, crashing all over the place, and people have died. Yeah.
So at that point, do you come back to the U.S. after that experience?
Yeah.
Even though there was carnage, traumatic, were there lessons learned about tactics and how far women are willing to go to be competitive?
Yeah, of course. I learned so much. I haven't raced in Europe since then, but any field I've been in feels calm. So, I mean, since then, it feels calm compared to that, even if it's chaotic.
What did you take from that experience in Europe that's now part of your repertoire of racing? Like,
yeah, I think I learned how to move around in the peloton you're shoulder to shoulder with 100 girls, and you have to be able to maneuver through twisty streets with road furniture and cracks in the road. And yeah, I mean, I've taken that in many ways.
yeah.
Yeah.
I listened to an interview you did recently, and it sounds like you're very methodical or thoughtful about your plan, both your strategic plan for the race, your nutrition plan for the race, and you're pretty loyal to that plan.
Yes.
Where did you pick that up, or has it always been that way? Is that back to the chemistry brain? And like, I have this plan and I'm going to follow it.
Yeah, I think I always have a plan.
Yeah.
Ever since I started racing, I have a plan. I like to know, like, my favorite thing to do is to figure out where a race was won the year before, like how the attack was made.
Okay.
So that I can know going into when I do the race, like how possibly I could win.
So that goes back to, in this same interview, you said the race will be won at mile 24. I think you said that.
Yeah, I believed that.
And was it won at mile 24 this year?
No, it was one. This is the Leadville 100. I think it was technically won at mile 104, but I think.
But some strategic things happened at mile 24, right?
Yeah. I didn't let myself believe.
So by the book.
You didn't let
This
yourself
chemist.
believe it?
Yeah, mile 24 I thought was going to be a deciding factor of the race, and it totally was.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it was because you made that happen, right?
I didn't think about that.
I mean, it happened at 24 because you planned to make it happen at 24 and you executed. You started to ride away.
Well, I was actually scared of it happening at 24 and I wasn't going to be there. Okay. So that was my motivation to make it happen.
This is the race IQ and the maturity, right? Of recognizing and seeing moments and saying, well, instead of being scared of it, I'm going to lean into it and take a risk. Instead of it being dictated to me, I'm going to dictate what outcomes I can control. And I think that's, I don't know if you brought that back from Europe, but, we recently sat with some other pretty high level cyclists in your world. And my question to them was, do you take the race or is it dictated to you? And both of them kind of smirked at each other, and you can tell like they believe in taking the race.
I think so too. Yeah.
So say more about it. What did you do at mile 24?
Yeah. I mean, tell us, because when you made said something along the lines of, if I feel good, I want to take advantage of feeling good. I don't want it to pass and then I feel bad later and then it's too late.
Yeah.
So maybe elaborate on that and taking advantage of the feel good moments.
Yeah. So these long races, it happens. You're going to experience feeling really good and you're going to experience feeling very bad. And that is something that is unanimous across the board. Everyone will feel that way. And so I won't always try to focus on trying to make the best out of the time that I feel good, because if I don't utilize it, I'm scared that I'm going to lose it. So yeah, I had an idea going into the race that at mile 24, which was just after a 5-ish mile technical descent, that there would be a lead group formed, and that lead group at mile 24 would make it to the finish, I believed. And so in order to make sure that I made that lead group, I attacked over the climb that that led into the descent, and I actually formed the lead group. Yep,
you sure did.
On accident. So, and then it ended up staying away.
And because you were feeling good at that point, and you're like, in my mind, I'm feeling good. I have to take advantage.
I don't know if I felt good at that point. Okay. I just was so set on making sure that happened that I didn't care how I felt. The leaning into feeling good sort of happened a bit later on in the race. And that was when that mile 40 or something before the turnaround, I elevated the pace because I felt good and rode away from the competitors and decided to take the rest of the race on solo for 60 miles.
Incredible. At that point, I've actually never heard a cyclist say, I made the move when I felt good because I just knew, you're feeling good or feeling bad is going to come and go. That's remarkable courage to just burn some matches when you feel good. So,
I mean, I also happen to know that it would be a good place to feel good. Or, I mean, I felt good on a good spot to
do it,
to make it. Yeah. I mean, of course I felt good at other points in the race, but I wasn't ready to be alone yet.
Was it a risk in the moment?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, this was approaching the top of the Columbine climb, which is the turnaround. And yeah, I knew from years past that the first woman to the top of the Columbine climb usually did not win because they usually blew up, but I didn't care. I was ready to risk losing in order to win.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you're soloing, you're cruising.
Yeah.
Is there a sense of ride within yourself, or was it, I can hear them. I can feel their breath on my back.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I was trying to ride within myself, but I think it was a bit harder than I should have been going. And no, I didn't. Initially, no, I did not feel them breathing down my neck. I looked back and I saw that I had immediately made a big gap. So it was more like, okay, I have to actually just focus on not blowing up.
Yeah. That's the benefit of the turnaround too, right?
Yeah.
Like getting a sense of like where everybody is and,
yeah,
you know.
I think we've got to talk about the fact that in this day of power meters, heart rate monitors, all kinds of other data that's on board on your bike, you chose to ride this race without heart rate monitor, without power meter.
Yeah.
What can you tell us why? And is this the first time you've done that, or have you done it before? Let's learn a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I actually never have.
Okay. That's awesome.
How dare you attack without Whoop giving you permission? Whoop, should I go? No. Okay, I'll say it. Like, I'm good. I haven't recovered.
I mean,
how'd you come to the decision first that's what you were going to do?
I mean, it was actually more of an equipment choice decision. However, I had a power meter in my hands like 2 days before the race, and I decided not to put it on because I was committed to doing this. I actually drew some inspiration from, I'm coached by Kristen Armstrong, who's a 3-time gold medal Olympian in the time trial, and she never raced with a power meter.
Okay.
Because she has taught herself how to race by feel. So I wanted to draw from that. And I mean, this is an important race to me, and I was going to feel a lot during the day. And I too wanted to race by feel. And I felt so much that day.
It's like incredible faith when you're a woman of science. Like, this is incredible.
I just want to flip everything I've ever known on my head.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Or on its head. Yeah.
Totally.
So were you way more aware of your body this race than you ever have in the past? Or
It's a good question. I feel like I was more in tune with just moving forward. Like, everything in my whole brain was moving forward. I had people ask me if I saw them out on the course cheering, and they're like, "You didn't look at me." And I'm like, "No, because you weren't there." All I could see was moving, or the place I was moving.
Yeah.
It was all
it
of my
changed your focus in
concentration.
a way, like just.
Yeah, I had nothing to focus on except propelling myself forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get a sense in those moments when you're that focused in that time is not the same? In some ways you're racing,
Yes.
but does time fly? I mean, you're out there for hours, but do you feel like it flies by?
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I looked at my clock one time in the whole day, and it was at 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine going out for a ride and the first time you look at your clock is 4 hours? That you're
I
that
look at it
focused?
in 5
Yeah, that's
minutes
awesome.
on the, yeah.
Yeah. And that was just after I had
You had already made the turn.
like
at
sort
that
of
point.
been broken away. I looked down and I was like, oh, wow, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you know this was in the bag?
I didn't let myself believe until I could see the finish line.
That late.
Yeah, I had so many emotions about the possibility of winning this race that I didn't allow myself to believe until I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to deal with the negative feelings that could possibly come if it didn't happen.
Yeah. If you got caught or mechanical or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you can't stop believing. I mean, we talked about cyclocross before. You don't know who's going to win a cyclocross race because there's so many possibilities for mechanicals, for crashing, for anything. And I was not prepared for what would have happened had I not been able to win.
So you're in the finishing chute. It's coming. It's getting closer. No one's on your tail, at least for, a few minutes. Do you start to envision your parents, the buckle? Is like, what is it? What do you start to feel come into you when you see that it's going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, there's this feeling that I actually have felt like just thinking about it, like the feeling of like overwhelming emotion that it might feel like to kind of like live out a dream like this. And yeah, coming across the finish line. Well, actually, with like 100 meters to go, that it was just like that feeling overwhelming my whole body. It was like this feeling of like, I can't believe my life right now. I can't believe what I just did. Yeah.
So surreal.
I in my brain, I was like, I really want to drive out and see my parents because they were on course that day. I really wanted to drive out and find them. But yeah, the day had different plans for me, but I did end up being able to see them, which was really nice.
So you think of this timeline of eight years from the time you stepped onto a trainer in January of 2016 to the podium of Leadville 2024. Have you thought about that 8 years and how, I mean, remarkable what you've accomplished is and what you've done?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think the most shocking, or at least a more shocking number, is the amount of years that I had this dream, which is like 2.5. I mean, I didn't think I would win Leadville in 2016. That dream didn't begin then.
Right.
It began over time, and it really began when I joined the current team that I'm on. So I never thought I would achieve a goal like this fast, because this was the biggest goal I've ever had. Yeah.
What do you feel now? Do you feel an obligation? Do you feel more pressure? Do you feel really free? I'm like, I don't want to get ahead of the game here, but like, what's 2025 going to feel like when you get on the bike and race that year?
I mean, I actually feel empty. I don't know how to feel because I just achieved the thing that I honestly didn't think would happen so soon.
Yeah.
And it was everything I have ridden for the last, I mean, since I got a coach pretty much. I don't know what it feels like.
Yeah.
I haven't touched, I'm taking a little time away from the bike at the moment. So I don't know what it feels like to start training again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know what I'm training for.
I love that you described this evolution of a dream, you know, that you just got on the bike in 2016, and as time went on, you let the steps of progression kind of fuel the dream coming into clarity. Mm-hmm. And I think for so many people, especially, you know, we have a connection to Nika, so do you, although a horrible prom day that it turned out to be, that youth tend to think that it's just a clear picture from the beginning, and it's an evolution. You know, I mean, your evolution has been remarkable. It played out over 8 years. You know, we kind of jumped from 16 to the finish line, but in reality, 8 years, pouring beer, going to school, doing all these things. It's cool. I mean, it's just cool that it worked out that way.
Yeah.
Has the next dream come on the radar yet?
I think the interesting thing is that people are trying to tell me what my next dream should be.
You should race this. You should race that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
The finish line is not clear. I mean, what drives someone is not clear. It has to be developed by the person. And I don't know what it is yet, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I love that you're dictating yourself that way. Because I think so many are just like, well, tell me and I'll chase it, or, you know, or here's how it's been done by other people. Therefore, this is the path that I need to choose. And why have you chosen that mindset? I'm curious.
I don't know. Well, because of what came out on the day of Leadville this year, there were many, many girls that were strong enough to beat me, but I think I wanted it the most on the day. And that is what helped me win. And I want my next goal to have that much, you know, oomph to it. Like I need to want it that much in order for it to be that meaningful when it comes true.
Is it going to take you 8 years?
It might.
I hope it's not on the foot. I hope it's not the Leadville 100 run. It could be. Maybe it's swimming around the world. Who knows? You know?
My goodness.
I mean, your potential's just incredible. Off the chart ceiling, which is awesome. Finish with a little freestyle. If you could sit with the next generation girl or say something about, women in sport. What feels you talked about gratitude, this feeling of just, gratitude that you had finishing the shoots. What's on your heart and mind these days that way?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a voice, right? You're no longer, I don't know, what was the word that you used a few minutes ago?
Invisible.
Mm-hmm.
You're not invisible.
Yeah.
Not now.
I really believe that the next generation needs to believe that nothing happens overnight. And for example, when I was in high school, I was very into soccer. I loved soccer. I tried extremely hard at soccer. I was first to practice. I was juggling all night. I tried to be the best soccer player that I could be. And I made my varsity high school soccer team, and our team made it to the state championships and won the state championships, but I didn't play a single minute. I was on the bench. So I had a dream, and it didn't play out for me. But I learned through that experience that I have drive. And when you commit your drive to what you believe in, eventually it will pay off. And while it might not be soccer, and while it might not have been swimming, which is something else I also did and was also not the best at, keep trying. Yeah. I mean, the road doesn't have to end when someone decides it ends for you. You can start somewhere new, and you can reach for the stars at something new as well. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, awesome.
Plus, carbon is way cooler than shin guards. Way cooler.
Yeah, but it's way more expensive.
Oh, something tells me that your bikes aren't expensive anymore. Here you go, Mel. Anything else that you would share? By the way, that was incredible.
Thanks.
Perfect for youth to hear.
Yeah.
All of us, actually. Just never say die. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That was maybe all I got.
Any people, when you think about the people in the progression, you mentioned your parents happen to know that there's a guy in your life. Anybody that you would mention, just, I don't believe that anybody does it alone. The older I get, the more I recognize how impactful mentors and coaches and people who lift each other. Anybody that sticks out?
Yeah. I mean, my mom has been with me through every single step of this. She encouraged me to get on the bike for the first time. That first time when I crashed out of my Nike race. And she encouraged me to come back, and she didn't hold it against me when I wanted to do it for myself. And yeah, I mean, we created an amazing friendship from it, and she is my best friend.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
The relationships that you can make in cycling are so powerful. Yeah.
Love it. Any other questions?
No.
P?
Been great.
You've had your daily dose.